So we're still here in Clovis, California, and a little project here in the bathroom. The shower arm was snapped off in the brass, so hopefully you can get a picture of this maybe. So it's snapped off in there. You can see there's no threads in the brass anymore. So that arm's snapped off, and here's the other side of it right here. You can see. So it's just corroded and then it snapped, and so that when they turned the shower on, it was just pouring out in the wall. So you know, you may have some water in the wall down there still unless it dries out. But anyway, so what we've done is gone and replaced it, put a shark bite drop ear 90 up there, and then also a little coupling right here and a little piece of plastic pipe going up to it. So that's stubbed out nice and good, and just so you can see it, what it looks like, there's the new stub out. So before we covered it up, just wanted to see what we did back there. You know, got the plastic in. Those are the shark bite fittings right there. That's a 1/2 inch coupling. Up here's another one, except for it's a 90-degree, turns out, mounted to the block. The block's screwed back in the way that it was. Got some shims around here because this blocking isn't going to allow the sheetrock to sit back where it was. So you can see we've screwed in a block behind there and some shims up here. We'll go ahead and screw it back to here and get the sheetrock back in, put the panel back in, and then the only thing you'll have to do is, at some point if you want to, come back in here and take some wood putty on the seam, fill it, and you can simply paint it, sand it, paint it. And this seam right here is actually right at a shelf level, so this bottom one should be hidden. But anyway, so we're gonna get the sheetrock back in, get the panel back on, and I'll take another video when we're done. So we're still here in Clovis, California, and you can see the panels back in, and just some gold screws, construction screws, just to hold the panel back in. Sheetrock's back in, panel's back in. Like I say, you can come back in and sand this and fill it and then paint it. And most of it, I think, should disappear just fine. It's pretty level, it's pretty flush because all the blocking I put in there. And if you would like the gold screws, they can be painted, or you can go ahead and back those out. I don't have any white cabinet screws. They make them, it's got a raised head on it, and they look similar to a head like this. So it's kind of raised. Anyways, that's a cabinet screw. And it's got a painted white head, and then they would disappear totally. So, anyways, that's back in. I don't have any white painted screws with me, or ever, but this side's back in. The repair's done. I'm gonna go set the shower arm and a temporary shower head, and get a temporary screw in the handle, and we'll be done. Take another video. So we're still here in Clovis, California. We just finished buttoning this little project up. What we did up here is, from this side, we drilled it out because we're going to try and get an easy out and get the old shower arm out of the brass wing L. And we couldn't find one big enough. Plus, it's 20 years old. I highly doubt, after spending so much time on it, that we'd get it out of there. So that's the reason for this project. We did get it okayed through the homeowner before we proceeded. What we did do, though, because the hole was bigger, is we came back in with some MDF board and cut little shims all the way around, just to help isolate this arm. You can see if the camera is going to move. I'm trying to move this up and down. It's tight in there. Don't put a lot of pressure on this. They're not designed for it. So back to the shims. All the way around, I've got MDF board, just from that same kind of backing we saw on the other side of the wall here that I used for the sheetrock. Just cut little shims in a little wedge shape and shoved them in all the way around, so that there's no upward movement, there's no downward movement, and there's no side-to-side movement. So this thing is real solid in there right now. Pushed it all the way back to the wall, and then I took clear silicone and siliconed the whole thing in. So there is no wood, and it's MDF board, which is sawdust and glue. But there is no wood or MDF board exposed in the shower. It's completely in the tile cavity, flush with this wall surface, and then the silicone comes all the way out and fills up that entire escutcheon, which is this cover plate right here. I gooped it on way out here, shoved it on, so it's glued to the wall. It'll dry there 24 hours, you're fine. And so this is really solid installation. The reason why is with these arms, you get movement up and down, up and down, up and down. Then you get a good yank on a hose or something, and then snap. And that's what happened with the other one. This is just a temporary shower head because we had talked about you going and getting another handheld sprayer, and you're working today, so we're out on site. We didn't want to leave you hanging, so we just bought this little cheapie. It's $13, and it's pretty nice actually. If you look at it, I mean, that's a good blast of water. It's a Delta, 13 bucks out of Home Depot. So we wanted to leave you at least to where it's functioning correctly. Down here, this is an old Price Pfister valve, and if you want to replace the trim here and get everything up to where it should be, have to get a hold of Price Pfister and find out first of all what trim this is, and probably your offerings are going to be limited to chrome. You might be able to find, well, you probably should just stick to chrome. The rest of the bathroom is the old polished brass. And I don't know what they've got. And then the handle's pretty generic. You can get that. The cartridge is very difficult to operate. You have to really pull on it to get it to come out, and push on it to get it to close, and back and forth. So you're going to need a cartridge replacement, or it's going to pull that screw out of there. We did not have a screw. The homeowner asked us to get into a screw in here. They had a long wood screw, like a 3.5 inch wood screw that was screwed into this plastic valve stem, cartridge stem, so you would pull but it was too long, and so the handle would slip all the way out here and then pull, and of course it's off the stem already. So what we did is we borrowed one of your screws from over here. I hope you don't mind, but we don't stock every known screw to mankind. I've got a nice little box right here. There's 16 or 12 different configurations of screws. Not one of them fit, so I borrowed one of your little screws off of this faucet. So all you need to do is this guy right here. You take this one, put that guy out, and you just take that over there to Orchard Supply, and you can see, get the same screw. Orchard Supply, Ace, they'll walk you back there. Don't go to Home Depot because you got to find your own screws, but if you go to like an Ace or an Orchard Supply, they'll actually walk you back there and find the screw that you need that's identical to this thread pattern, the length, and also the head. This is like an oval head, so, and it'll probably come in a chrome. They might have it in the polished brass, but just pull this out of here because that's all that I had. And so right now the hot side of this faucet is it's still on there, but nothing's holding the faucet, this on right here. So it comes off and on, which is fine. You know, you can still use it. It just lifts off of there. So I apologize. That's the only thing I can think of to do, just so that you've got something to use. But that screw in that plastic stem, because it's so hard to pull it on and then to push it off, you know, back and forth in the wall, that screw is gonna pull out of there because the cartridge is so old. So anyways, enough said about that. Project is done. Everything's buttoned up. Outside of that, this installation is done.